about something that's kind of popped up on TikTok as well as Twitter. And then as a result of that, people have been DMing me on Discord, asking me in my Ask Me section. If you haven't checked out Discord, go ahead and check it out. It's where people can ask me a ton of different questions, but also meet up with other players if you want to go ahead and have more people to play with. So a little side note, that's in the description. So what everyone is kind of rumored as being an issue is that if you put on this Susat multi-zoom, it's going to remove your recoil. It's just going to make it so this gun beams across the map, and it makes it significantly easier to use. We're going to go ahead and test whether or not that's true and kind of go through all of the various optics. I went through, shot the wall for all of them so you can kind of have a better idea of what is actually happening as we go through that. If you enjoyed the video, learned something new, please do me a favor, hit that like button. Goal in today's video is 7,000 likes. You guys crushed it yesterday. Hopefully we can crush it again today. If you're brand new, want to find your way back for more Call of Duty content, make sure you subscribe with notifications on. Also, just a heads up, I announced it on Twitter a few weeks ago. I am partnered with Kontrol, which is a meal replacement option. And as of today, they're actually going to be inside vitamin shops. I think it's 750 stores. So if you're interested in trying it out, definitely go ahead and go into a vitamin shop to go ahead and see what flavors they have. They have all kinds of really good flavors too, by the way. But let's go ahead and get into the video. So the first thing we're going to look at is visual recoil. There's two parts to pretty much recoil. Obviously, we have the actual recoil, what the pattern does, and there's different components to that, whether the recoil pattern is pretty stable, meaning it's going to be consistent, vertical recoil, which is recoil control, recoil stabilization, which is horizontal bounce. Those all go towards the recoil pattern. If you shoot a wall, does it do the same thing over and over, and what happens to that pattern as you swap up the optic? We'll go ahead and go through this. You can see that the irons, this is iron sights, and I have all the optics listed. I'm going to shoot a 75 round mag into this X again and again for each of the optics, and you're going to notice that some appear as though they have more recoil than others, and I'll talk about what is actually happening. So let's go ahead and go through this here. I thought it would be okay to do it just head-to-head with the Susat, but might as well go through, see if there's any other outliers to this. And as you can see, when you fire, it doesn't look like the gun has a ton of recoil, just the iron sights. If we put on the red dot, doesn't look like a ton of recoil to me. As we go through these various ones, what you're going to notice is a lot of the higher zoom, they get this visual recoil kick that's going on. And obviously I'm controlling the recoil. I'm not like just letting it go, but you can kind of see what the recoil pattern is doing as I shoot. You can see there's a lot of visual kick for the 2X Vision Tech. The 3X is a little bit more. The reflex, it looks like a lot of that is gone, even though it does have a little bit of side-to-side bounce. The overall gun, it doesn't look like a huge difference. Even this one, a lot of visual kick is going on, and it kind of causes the background to look like it's shaking more than it should be. We got the Royal Cross 4X. You can see this one looks like a lot's going on. Keeping in mind that as you go into the higher zoom optics, your sensitivity is going to be a little bit different. Here's a Susat that everyone says has no recoil. And you can see on the outside, it looks like nothing's moving, but you can see the whole recoil thing is shaking the overall optic. This is zoomed in on that, and obviously it looks like it has way more visual recoil. We'll go ahead and go to the next one, which is a quick dot LED. Very little to no recoil, pretty straightforward. As we go through these, go to the next one. We got the Hawksmoor. This is kind of the holographic sight. Looks pretty solid. All the backgrounds kind of look the same on these low zoom optics. As we go to the Hangman, looks like it got a ton of, look at the, it's like someone banging on the screen. And then we got this one, which is a 1X. Look at that, looks like it has no recoil. And this is one of the things a lot of people brought up with the DMR way back when. They're like, if you use that, no, there's no recoil. Zooming in all the way to 10X, it looks like it has an insane amount of recoil. And then we're going to get to the infrared, which looks like it has no recoil at all. Looks super easy to control. Obviously, this thing's so close, and it's moving, but it's not like kicking crazy. So here's something I did. I wanted to put a couple of these side by side. So what I've done is I put a reflex sight, the 3X, and the Susat. And we're going to do this 3 different ways. So we'll go ahead and look at this the normal way. With their normal optical zoom, this is how much they are zoomed in. And then what I'm going to do is align them. And you can see that the one on the left and the one on the right pretty much look about the same amount of recoil. And the one in the middle, a lot of visual recoil. Then I've zoomed in so that the X is the same size, and we see kind of a similar consistency where now it looks like a lot more shaking is going on with all of these. They look all like they're about shaking the same amount. Obviously, I zoomed them in because it's that optical zoom that's giving this illusion. And then we'll go ahead and make them all smaller. So now all of them are the same size. It doesn't look like... It looks about the same. And in reality, it does end up being the same. So this is kind of where a lot of that stuff originated. I get tagged in TikTok stuff left and right because people do kind of stretch for views, obviously. And they will do things like this where it says, oh, okay, if you use the 3X, if you use the micro flex LED, but if you use the Susat, it cuts your recoil by 40%. And obviously you can see from this one, it is clearly... doesn't even look like the same number of bullets. Like, look at right here. This little pattern is exactly the same. And then all of a sudden, all the bullets just disappear from that point. Very odd. So I went through and I did the exact same thing. I went in with the XM4 and with the QBZ. And you can see this pattern on the left is with just iron sights. It goes up and to the right, up and to the right, up and to the right, up and to the right. And this is with and without that Susat. Same thing with and without. And you can kind of see that pretty much they're the exact same. Maybe this one is a little bit of an anomaly here because it's kind of mostly straight. There is probably a little bit more side to side. But when the bullets hit and they're overlapping, it's a little bit hard to do those patterns. But overall, you can see no big difference there. So even though there's not an actual difference to your recoil, it gives you an illusion of different recoil. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to fire this. I'm going to just try to be a little bit accurate. And you're going to see that it's pretty easy. There's not a lot of screen shake. Pretty straightforward, easy shots. No aim assist, shooting at a target, like 15, 20 meters or whatever. So if I go over here and I go to my options, now what I'm going to do is take off the affected FOV and independent. Now now we zoom in and it's going to look a little bit different even though the recoil pattern is going to be the same. There is way more visual shake. You guys saw that, right? So what's happening is a similar effect is if I ended up, now we saw how much shake that had. And what if I do is I bump this up to 110 and then now I do affected, it's going to look like I have very little recoil. Very little. Even though the gun's still moving the same, the recoil patterns are the same, and I controlled it the same, the actual visuals are completely different. So it gives that illusion that there's less recoil on a weapon. Same thing here. This is going to look like it has very little recoil. Even though it's bouncing around quite a bit and I'm not even like super accurate with it, it looks completely different than if I go over here and go to independent, which will make it look like normal zoom in. This is how the normal, look at all my shots, how crazy they were, right? So pretty much I was controlling it a little bit more there. But you guys kind of get the point of how much this zoom is happening here. This changes your actual optical view and you get a visual kick. That's why on keyboard, or that's why on PC, when a lot of people transition, they switch over to a higher FOV. Obviously console is 80. And affected independent doesn't matter at 80. Only above it where it actually impacts it, where you'll notice that difference. So that's just another thing that is happening with that optic, and that's why it feels like it has no recoil, even though this console, that's the console FOV, so nothing crazy there. But obviously, once we bump that up, it's going to feel like it has an insane amount of recoil compared to, or less recoil, rather, as we bump this up. So pretty straightforward stuff. I think some people get like, some people want an optic to work the way the VLK does, that actually reduces your recoil, increases that stabilization so that it's a little bit easier for you to hit the shots. And that's basically what's happening here. We're getting this effect where you are getting a zoom in effect because if you play on affected or independent, and it will make it less. So you can control the shots. They all go to the same spot or whatever the heck the case is. But with this Susat, you are getting this optical illusion where your thing, it looks like it's more zoomed in than it actually is, because the 3X, we know that it's zooming you in like closer to a 4.5, 5X, and the 4X is more like a 6X. So it's all weird how they don't line up, but that's why guns will look like they have no recoil when you're using them, even though the gun clearly has recoil. and it goes straight up vertical. So hopefully you guys did enjoy the video, learned something new. Does it help your visual recoil? Yeah, maybe give you a little bit more confidence in a gunfight, but the target will be much smaller because of that. The same way that higher FOV makes the target smaller, it'll give this illusion of less recoil, which in theory could cause you to hit more shots because you're a little bit more confident, but it's not going to actually change what happens to the bullets once they're fired. So hopefully you guys did enjoy the video, learned something new. If you did, please do me a favor, hit that like button. If you're brand new, want to find your way back, double check, make sure you subscribe with notifications on. Appreciate all the support on the channel. Thank you for watching. As always, have a great day.